When I think back to my Lisbon trip, the first thing that comes to mind isn't sunshine, or the seafood, or even Sintra. It's my hire car spending its very first morning at the police impound. Yes, my car was living its best criminal life while I stood on the pavement, coffee in hand, questioning my choices. Lisbon, however, forgave me quickly. Once the chaos passed, I realised the city isn't meant for driving, it's meant for wandering. For climbing steep cobbled streets, there's plenty of them, and they double up as leg workouts, 100% no gym needed here. And then when the legs get tired, hopping into tuk-tuks, usually driven by someone who's part tour guide and part stand-up comedian. So for my home base, I stayed in Alfama, and honestly, I couldn't have picked better. Every lane twists like a maze, there's some beautiful pastel coloured houses, and the sound of Fado echoing from open doorways at night. The walls are blanketed in those blue and white tiles, turning every street into an open air gallery. Even the cafes here feel timeless, locals chatting over espresso and pasta donata as the trams rattle by. And yes, even the bathrooms have better tiles than in my house. If you're enjoying this little slice of Lisbon so far, don't forget to hit like and subscribe. It'll really help me grow the channel and bring you more adventures like these. One morning, I headed out west to Belém, where Lisbon's age of discovery still feels alive. The Belém Tower rises beside the Tagus River, almost like a stone guardian watching over the city's explorers. Standing there, it's impossible not to imagine the sailors setting out into the unknown. And after all that deep historical reflection, I rewarded myself with a pasta donata from the original Pastéis de Belém bakery next door. And just a little disclaimer here, please excuse all my pronunciations. I am definitely not got any fluency for Portuguese. But these were beautiful. The flaky pastry was warm custard, and honestly, that's the kind of history I can definitely commit to. Back in the centre, the Santa Justa lift whisked me high above Lisbon's rooftops. The view, all red tiles, shimmer from the river, was definitely worth the queue. Nearby, I stepped into the church of Roque. It's very, very plain outside, but absolutely drenched in gold on the inside. It's almost like walking into a jewellery box. And then, because Lisbon is delightfully quirky, I found some sardine shops. They treat tinned fish like fine art here. Rows of colourful tins, each labelled by year. It's like you're selecting a vintage, if you're looking for your age, of course. We selected some 6 boxes, and they were all delicious. Lisbon rewards every uphill climb with a miradora, a viewpoint that makes the effort worthwhile. Mind you, I could almost still pant at the thought. Walking up and down is certainly not for the faint-hearted. My favourite, Sonoro de Monte, glowing at sunset as the whole city turns golden almost. For a creative contrast, I spent an afternoon at LX Factory, a hub of street art, indie shops, cafes with music floating through the air. It's the modern heartbeat of the city, really. Now let's talk about one of my favourite loves, and of course Lisbon's true love language, food. There is bifanas. These are juicy pork sandwiches with mustard, often eaten standing up at a street corner. Bacalhau, salted cod, cooked in 100 different ways. None of them I tried were wrong. Seafood, so good it's unfair. Garlic prawns, tender octopus and clams swimming in white wine and herbs. Oh, I wish I could eat this food every day. And then there's vinho verde. This is Portugal's famous green wine. Light, crisp, a little sparkly, and dangerously easy to keep refilling, especially if your other half keeps pinching a glass or two. And now, let's breathe a second and say, Sintra. I'd planned the perfect trip, so I thought, to Pina Palace, but instead the car, or the universe, rerouted me to Quinta de Regaleira and Monserrate Palace. But thank goodness it did. Quinta de Regaleira is a neo-Gothic estate straight out of a fairy tale, filled with secret tunnels, spiralling wells, mystic symbols, gargoyles at the top. The entry fee for here, in my opinion, is great value for money. And then let's move on to Monserrate. Monserrate is pure magic, a palace wrapped in lush gardens planted with species from every corner of the world. You'll walk from tropical ferns to cacti from Mexico. I even stumbled upon an English rose garden right in the middle of Portugal. Sometimes these wrong things can really turn your journey into an awesome situation. But we weren't quite done with the chaos there. The drive back became its own adventure. A fire on the motorway turned a short journey into a marathon crawl. Hours passed, and at one point I joked that Lisbon was punishing me for not being green and having the car. But then, pure Lisbon magic again. We finally rode back into the city just as night fell and the streets had come alive. There was music echoing between the buildings, laughter spilling out from the bars, lights all up across the balconies, and an impromptu street party bursting with energy. We stepped straight out of the car and into celebration, dancing, cheering, the smell of sardines grilling in the night air. Lisbon, in its own chaotic way, had welcomed us home. Once we found a parking spot, a local informed us we could stay there until Monday morning, our leaving day. Needless to say, that car was parked until the end of our trip. If you wish to go to Sintra, I would highly recommend taking the train instead. They're roughly every 20 to 30 minutes and the journey time's approximately 40 minutes. My final evening ended the only way it should, with seafood, candlelight, and the raw beauty of Fado music. That haunting voice, those notes of longing and love, it felt like Lisbon itself was singing goodbye. One last gin ginger, a final toast to this city that made me laugh, detour, and fall completely in love. Lisbon gave me sunshine, stories, and the perfect blend of serenity and chaos. From golden churches to golden pastries, from tuk-tuks to tiles, it's a city that never stops dancing between old and new. If you've ever had your own travel disaster, tell me below, might make me feel better about my car's record. And if you're planning a trip, check out my Lisbon blogs, or if you'd like a beautifully curated itinerary, my 3-day itinerary guidebook is now available and there'll be a link in the description for that. Thank you for watching, and until next time, safe travels.